Let's face it, sometimes the last thing you want to do after work is to make dinner for the family. The stress of making something quick and healthy while accommodating all the likes and dislikes of everybody can be discouraging. And that's why I'm rounding up some of my quick, family-friendly, healthy recipes and meals that can be made and on the table in 30 minutes or less. My tried and true quick recipes use real ingredients and simple swaps to keep dinner time enjoyable for everyone. Hi, my name is Colin Roche and I'm the Dean of Biscayne College for the Liberal Arts and Social Sciences at St. Thomas University, and welcome to my kitchen. Today, I've got a great 30-minute or less meal for you. And I have the recipe here, which I'm going to share with you and show you how to make it. It's Italian sausage and pappardelle pasta. Yum, yum, yum. Dish so good, you can think you're at an Italian restaurant. So let's get started. So let's start with going over the ingredients. And here I have the recipe that I will share with you. Obviously, we're going to need pappardelle pasta, which, if you're wondering what that is, this is what it is. It is a long, flat, ribbon-like pasta that's made either with or without eggs. I happen to like this brand, but there's many out there that you can find at your grocery store. If you can't find pappardelle, you could use any wide egg noodle style if you want. It's very quick to cook. It takes about 6 minutes. So one of the things I want to do right off the bat, to not waste any time, is to get our water on the stove. So fill a pot with water, put it on high, let it start boiling. It can sit off while we're preparing it, because again, we're shooting for 30 minutes or less. Make sure you salt the water. Always want to salt it, because the pasta is a starch and it's going to not only absorb water, but whatever's in that water. We want to give it some flavor, we're going to have to put that salt in there. So heavily seasoning it with salt. Okay, then obviously we're going to have some other ingredients in there, including sausage. Right? I picked this up at the local grocery store, bulk sausage. Try to get this fresh. It's freshly made rather than those frozen tubes of sausage. And this is a mild pork because this is what my family likes, but they also sell it in a hot variety. So if you want more spice, get a different sausage. But it's really just the Italian sausages in bulk. Now if you're stuck, get some links. Italian links, uncooked, and then you just have to slice them and peel the casing off, and you're going to get the inside of the sausage, which is the bulk. Same as this, but this just makes it so much easier. And it's relatively inexpensive, so it's going to make a quick meal that's very, very affordable for most families. Now the sauce for this sausage and pappardelle dish is simple. It's made from the renderings of the sausage, right? Which is going to give it a lot of flavor in there. It's a lot of Italian spices, some fennel in there. Plus, we're going to have some butter in there, a little bit of onion, garlic, so it's going to have some aromatics in there as well. Now, this is so simple. So some of the other things you'll see on your recipe is obviously olive oil. We're going to want some olive oil, any brand that you get for that. We're going to have some onion, finely chopped. Now again, with recipes, if you like something, add it. If you don't like it, omit it. There's no recipe police, right? So if you like something, add it or add more. I'm going to add some garlic in here. You might like more garlic, add more. I'm going to add some red pepper flakes, like a little spice in there. If you like it really spicy, add more, like less. So you can make adjustments. And it's what you have on hand. Cooking should not be stressful. It should be fun, easy to do, get it on the table really quick. So sometimes I'll look around and see what I have in the refrigerator. Like today I'm going to add mushrooms in it. Okay, well, some of my kids don't like mushrooms, so I could admit that. But we're going to cook the pasta separate, and then we're going to make the sauce. So if you have someone that just wants noodles and none of the meat in there, or the mushrooms, or some of the spice, you can just have buttered noodles. You know, some Parmesan cheese on that. Now again, Parmesan cheese. You can get the shaker version. This is Parmesan Romano mixed. I like that one. You know, this is for really quick, but you know, really you should be using a block of Parmesan. I have one here. I think I get this, Trader Joe's. It lasts forever. I just put it on a grater. This is some nice fresh stuff. So just want to give you options, right? Swaps, something to make it quick. For example, I'm going to put fresh basil in here, right? But you could use dried. Maybe you don't have fresh, you got to put this together. Doesn't mean cancel the dish, just use dried. Or maybe put oregano or marjoram or something in there. So, and I'm also going to put parsley. I think parsley is, adds a little bit of color, it adds a little bit of fragrance and flavor to it, so I'm going to add parsley as well. And that's it. That and the garlic. The garlic's just going to be put in. Now garlic, I'm going to show you how to either use fresh garlic, or if you don't have time, use the jarred stuff. Again, very, very quick. Okay, so let's put this thing together. First thing we're going to do is get a big saute pan. We're going to start with the sausage, right? I have the bulk sausage here. I'm going to show you that. Then we're going to add in our onions and our garlic in here. We're going to render that, which means the fat's going to come out of the meat, and that fat is going to add richness to our sauce. Okay? Once that gets done, we'll add the butter, we'll add our cooked noodles that we throw into the water to cook, and then we're going to finish it with the basil and the parsley and the Parmesan cheese, season it with some salt and pepper. That's it. It's quick. Okay? Okay, to get started, heat your pan up, add olive oil. The recipe I put in here, tablespoon, but again, no measuring. It's supposed to be quick. Just pour in what you think you're going to need. Then I'm going to open up this sausage, right? Peel the wrapper off of it. And then I like to take a knife and just kind of go down it. Kind of separates it before I put it in the pan. You can just dump the whole thing in, but it's going to be a big square. Then you got to chop it all up. So beforehand, I just make like a checkerboard of the sausage. So I go down one side and then I go down another. See, I don't know if you can see this, but this tiny little square is in there. So then when I add it to my oil, it'll already be easier to break up. Now I don't want it really small like ground hamburger, because I want to have chunks of sausage mixed in with our noodles. So that's why I leave it kind of big. And then we just pull it out. It usually has paper on the bottom. So we turn it upside down, put it in the oil, peel that paper right off. And then that's just going to go right into the trash. So you can already hear it sizzling. That's good. That's what we want. And just take some kind of spatula or tongs and just kind of break it up when it's in there. Now it might stick a little bit at the beginning, and that's okay. Don't go and rip it all up and smear it. Just let it cook. What will happen is that as the meat caramelizes, it'll release from the pan. So as that gets brown and stuff, it'll release, and then you'll be able to stir it up. So just medium-high heat, leave it in the oil, and let it continue to cook. Now while that's going on, we're going to have to chop up some of our mushrooms. And we're going to get our red pepper flakes. And we're going to chop up our onions. I happen to have a red onion or a Bermuda onion. Use Spanish onion, use shallots, whatever you have. Don't like onion, skip it. My son really doesn't like onion that much, but I'm going to cut it up so small that when it's in the sauce, he's not even going to know it's in there. So I put in here one onion finely chopped, depending on the size of the onion. You got a big one, use a half. So I'm just going to cut this onion up. Chop it up as much as you can. So I'm using about 1/4 of an onion because, as I mentioned, my son doesn't really like it. So I'm just going to put a little bit in. Now again, I'm using a purple onion. I'm going to throw this right on top of my sausage. Good. Now let's see how it's sticking. Let's see. Nope, not sticking at all. Nice and brown on one side. I'm going to chop it up a little bit here so you can see it cooking. The onions are now on top. It's getting brown. It's releasing all that oil. We want to keep that oil in there. That's going to make our sauce. Put it back on the heat. We'll just leave that alone. Now, since I'm going to add some mushrooms shortly, well, let's put our garlic in first. So you can buy minced garlic. It's okay. Again, it's a swap, right? It's how much time do you have? Perfect world, we can use, pick from the garden ingredients, right? Pick from our orchards. We don't have that, right? You gotta go to the store. So use the garlic in a jar if you need to, or just use fresh if you have the time. Fresh is really easy. Use what you have. Get rid of this garlic, put it in there. Let's see how it's doing. If you can smell this, it smells so great. Let me show you. So you can see the garlic's in here, and the onions are cooking up, and I got chunks of this sausage. Some of it still needs a little more cooking time. And the pan on the bottom, you can see it, maybe this little brown here. Don't worry about it. We call that font. As long as it's not burning, we don't want it black, right? We want it brown. So as long as there's a little bit there, you can scrape it up if you can. That's fine, but if not, when we add a little bit of liquid, it's gonna, we call that deglazing, it's gonna release from the pan. Okay, we got that going on, so we'll put it back on. All right, let's see what we got now. In a large skillet, heat the oil, add sausage, garlic, onions, break up the sausage with a spoon, cook until the onions are tender, about 7 minutes. Taking care not to burn the garlic. Add the optional sliced mushrooms, red pepper flakes, cook and stir for 5 more minutes. Then boiling the pappardelle, we're going to put that right into our pan, toss it all the way up, put a little butter in there, top it with cheese and parsley, and we're done. So, next thing we need to do, give it some of a stir. Oh good. Then we're going to do a couple mushrooms. I like mushrooms. These are little creminis, small portobello type mushrooms. You can use white mushrooms. If you don't like mushrooms, skip it. If you like it, use more. Okay? I've already washed these. Don't wash mushrooms when you get them because they absorb it. They're like sponges, right? So you just don't want to wash them. But right before you use them, then you definitely want to wash them because you'll see dirt and stuff that they grow it in on here. So I've already washed these and then dried them so they don't absorb it. So I like the mushrooms kind of big, you know. So to do that, I'm just going to slice them. These are kind of bite-sized pieces. Now remember, they're going to shrink too when they hit this heat. There we go. So I used a few mushrooms, not too much. Put that right in there. They're going to absorb some of that fat from the sausage, which is going to give them a lot of flavor. They're also going to release moisture. Mushrooms have a lot of moisture in them, and that is going to help deglaze the bottom of that pan. Okay, red pepper flakes. I like this. I like a little bit of spice, not too much. If you like spice, use a lot more. In here, I put about a half a teaspoon. You adjust that as you like for this amount. So I'm just going to, again, yes, there's no measure. We're trying to do this in 30 minutes. So I'm just going to take a look, spread that in there. That's it. We're not baking. We don't need measuring spoons. These are a guide. 1 clove of garlic or 3 cloves. You know, tablespoon of olive oil or 3 tablespoons. So you make that decision that you need. Okay, so now I got some salt here, salting my pasta water. Make sure that comes to a good rolling boil. And adjust the heat, turn that off for a minute. So let's look at some basil while we're waiting here. So here is some basil. This costs like $2, fresh basil. You could use, you know, a dried basil if you'd like. But fresh is always good if you can get it. But I suggest if you're going to use a lot of basil or thyme or rosemary, just buy a plant. You know, it may cost you a little bit more, but you're going to get so much more out of it. For example, here is a plant that I bought at a local grocery store. It was $4. I've had this months now. You can see it's pretty sparse because I've been picking it, and it keeps growing back. But for $4, I've probably had multiple harvests here. So if you can, you buy a plant, keep it in the window, and then when you need it, you don't need a garden. You just pick off what you want, you know. Just break it off here. I got a whole cluster of basil. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to let the rest keep growing. But if not, you can buy it or use dried. So when you're working with basil or any leaf you want to chop up, you just kind of stack them together. Again, this is quick. And then just kind of roll them up here a little bit, so a little bit tighter. And then you can just slice them, you know, into like little threads or, you know, little strips. And we're going to put that. See, so now we have all this nice basil, quick. And parsley, again, I've already washed this. I'm just going to cut off a section. I'm going to roll it up in my hand to make it easier to chop. And then just going to chop this parsley. Rough chop, you know. This is like farmer style, peasant food, okay? So it's also be rough, and we want to be able to see it and taste it in our dish. So we have that done. Now let's look at some Parmesan cheese. Already ground, get it in different versions. This is from Publix, you can get it from Trader Joe's, whatever you like. But, you know, you can read the ingredients in there. It's Parmesan cheese and stuff, but they put cellulose in there and some other things and sorbix. It doesn't go bad and it can easily spread, but you know, okay, I use it sometimes for garlic bread. It's really quick. Take a loaf, cut it, put some butter on it, rub some garlic and sprinkle that on it under the broiler. So that's quick. But when it's a pasta dish, sometimes you want real Parmesan or Romano. So I take this block, you can see all the serration on it there from grating it before. It's pretty easy. I just put it over a plate and I just grate it. You may have a different grater. You know, there's battery operated ones, there's finer ones. I like my Parmesan to be, you know, kind of large so you can see it on the actual dish. So there we go. See that? Smells so good. You know, you smell it compared to this. Not much to this. It's kind of been dry. It could have been on a shelf for 6 months or a year. But use it if you have to. You know, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy special stuff. Still give you the effect, but there's some fresh. So we've got fresh herbs, and we've got that. All right, well, the water's just about coming up to a boil. We've got our thing, so let's check our recipe. So we're gonna add the pappardelle to the boiling water and cook to the package direction, which I told you is 6 minutes. Then we're gonna strain it. But you want to save some of that water, that pasta water, because it's going to have starch in it. And as I put in the recipe, save about a half a cup. And we're going to add that to our sausage with all of that butter and herbs in there, and that's going to make our sauce that's going to cling to the pasta. So don't dump all the water, but take a ladle, right, and put a half a cup into a coffee cup and just put it off to the side and then drain it. And then you can actually pour this into the pot, which is why I have mine here as well. All right, and then we're going to take the pasta that's been drained and we're going to throw it right into our saute pan with all of our sausage and herbs and mushrooms. Okay, then we're going to add a little butter. You don't have to if you want to keep it a little healthier, but butter is a thickening agent, a liaison. It's going to kind of finalize our dish and make it kind of a little bit creamy, but it's not a creamy dish. And then we're going to garnish with the chopped parsley and this basil, and then finish it with some cheese, and that's going to be it. So let's add our pasta now to the water. You'll see they come in like little nests, and they've got a little cornmeal on the outside of them so they don't stick, because it's kind of like a fresh egg pasta here. It doesn't take very long to cook. Okay, we'll drop these in. We're going to give it a stir. I usually use some tongs for that, or you can use a spoon of some sort. Just give it a good stir so they don't stick. And then once it comes to a rolling boil, 5 minutes later it's done. So it's a really quick part of it. Now what you want to serve this with is up to you. I would do maybe some French bread or some rolls on the side and maybe a side salad. And that's it. You've got a complete meal because you got the pasta for the starch, you've got the proteins of the sausage. You have a vegetable. You could add vegetables to this. If you wanted to, you could add other ingredients to this. Vegetables, some peas or something like that. Or just serve something on the side. I like it this way. And it's great as a leftover too. Save what's left over in the fridge. Next day, take it to work or whatever. Eat it the next night, microwave it. Wonderful. Okay, so our water is boiling, as you can see here, steam coming out of it. So I'm going to cook all of this pasta. It's about a pound. I'll throw it all in. Okay, give it a stir. Break up those little nests that I showed you, those little balls of pasta. Okay, and then we're going to give that a stir. We'll take the cover off now. And let that cook. 6 minutes. And I've got my sausage turned back on. Keep that warmed up. Then I have my plate ready to go and my tasting fork. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to finish the sauce with butter. Butter is a classic French technique of thickening. Monter au beurre, mount with butter. Put this in a sauce at the end. You don't want to just melt, turn into an oily, greasy, dish. You want to swirl that in at the end, and then it just makes it kind of creamy. So we're going to take 3 tablespoons. This is 4. I'm going to cut that up into small teaspoon-sized pieces, and we're going to add that in the end. Toss it with our pasta and our sausage mushroom mixture before we put the cheese on, which will help it cling to the pasta with this butter. And it's also going to add richness to our sauce. But if you're not into the butter, you're trying to make it a little more healthy, don't use it, skip it, or maybe use margarine or something else, one of the other plant-based butters that are out there. It's up to you. Again, all this easy to switch out and swap as you need. So I'm just going to cut this into, maybe I'll use the whole thing. I like butter. So this is a lot of pasta, it's a whole pound. Okay, the pasta's been going for 2-3 minutes now. So we're looking good. This is a quick meal. But it can also hold. You can make this up and you can put it in the pan, put a cover on it, and it can sit a long time. You know, the pasta's not going to do anything, it's just going to keep absorbing the sauce. So let me show you one of the noodles right now. So you can see them here. You know, they're all come unwound from their nests, right? Now they're all individual. So just keep that giving a stir, bring it back to that boil. And if you're not sure, taste it. You know, you pull one out, you taste it. If it's still a little hard, let it cook a little bit longer. Manufacturer gives you an example, right, or a recommendation. It says 6 minutes for this pasta. It could be 9 minutes, depending on the brand. But it also, there's other factors they can't account for, like how humid is it? If there's more humidity in the air, the pasta is going to have moisture, so it's going to take less to cook. Or if they're really, really dry, that it's sitting a long time, it takes a little bit longer for that starch to absorb moisture. So it may take longer to cook. How much water do you have in the pan? How high is the heat? Is it a rolling boil? Is it just at a simmer? So what's the temperature? So all these come into play here, which is why cooking is not necessarily 100% science. It's why we have culinary arts. It's an art form, right? You look at it, you make determinations, you change as you need. Like a tomato, you put a tomato in a product, right? It could be really sweet, could be kind of sour, could be kind of bitter, could have no flavor. So you may need to add some sugar, you may need to add some salt, because it's the wild items, right? They grow in nature, so they have different factors that affect them at different times of the year, different locations where it was grown or where it was harvested from. But all of that is why we taste it and we try it and we add what we want. So this is a good base for you, but change it up as you will, what's best for your family. Okay, I think this pasta's done now. Looks good. So I'm going to steal a cup of water, a cup of the cooking liquid, right? So I'm going to take my ladle here and I'm going to take half a cup, maybe I'll take a cup because I can always throw it out. I'm going to dump the rest anyway. So I said in the recipe a minimum of a half a cup, which is probably what you'll need, but you know, you're taking a little extra, that's fine. So take my ladle, and this water is going to be, one, it's going to have some salt in it because we salted the water, and two, it's going to have, you know, starch in it, you know, that comes off from the pasta, because the pasta is made with flour, right? Flour, water, some eggs. So that flour is now into the liquid there. So it's going to be a thickening agent in there, but it's also going to add body or liquid to our sauce. Okay, so now we need to taste this pasta. So I can just pull a small one out if we can get one. Shake it off here. And then you just break off a bit and you taste it. Al dente means dente, dentine gum, is to the tooth. So it should have a little bite to it. You know, you don't want it to just fall apart, right? So you want to have a little bit of chew to it. That's the pasta's cooked al dente. And this is perfect because it's also going to cook more after we drain it in the sauce with all of the sausages. So I can even undercook it at this point a little bit. So let me strain this. So I have this little tool here, I don't know if you guys have that, you put it over your pot. It makes it very convenient to dump the pasta out. But anything you have, you can always use a cover as well, cover the pot, turn it, and let a little gap there and it'll pour off the water. Or just pour it into a strainer, that's good as well. So let me drain this really quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, there was a lot there, so I actually used a strainer. Colander to pull it out. Now we can move our sausage back onto the heat here. Okay. And then I'm going to take this pasta and put it right into this pan. Move my butter here so you can see it. So you can see the mushrooms, don't they look great with the sausage, caramelized, good flavor. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna dump it in. I may save some off because I got a smaller pan here and I can always save it for another dish. Or, as I mentioned, if you have children that maybe don't like all the sausage and stuff, or someone, just save some pasta, put some butter on it or olive oil, a little garlic powder, and then some cheese. Kids love that. So now I'm gonna just give this a little stir. You can see it's gonna be dry, but I do wanna coat all the noodles with the sausage oil, that came out of it, and all those flavors a little bit before I add my my water. So here's that water that I saved, so I'm gonna pour some of that in there. It's gonna deglaze that pan. It's still hot, so it doesn't cool down my dish. Now I'm gonna add my butter. So I'm gonna kind of break that around in different areas, let that melt in. And, oh, this looks great. Smells wonderful. Butter's melting, so let that melt for a second here. And then I'm going to add my basil and parsley, so I can stir that in, and it'll stick with that butter and oil from the sausage has coated that pasta, so now it'll all stick. You can see the colors coming out now. Add a little bit more. I'm going to save a little bit just for the top of my dish when I coat it up. Okay, the butter is pretty much all melted now. Let's see if I can get a close up on that. And now we're going to bring it all together by binding it with some of this cheese. So again, spread it around because that cheese is going to melt. Again, it's going to add another layer of richness. Okay, now we want to taste it. Get some of that oil in there, maybe a little piece of pasta. Need some more salt. Spread it around. Some more pepper. Okay. So now we can plate it up. So I'm going to take some of this, I'm going to do the pasta. Put it in. I like to give it a little twist at the end, kind of keeps it all, gives it some height. And then I'm going to put sausage all around that. Another thing I often do too is I'll put Kalamata olives in there, or Greek olives. So if you have some black olives, even green would work. Sometimes with a black, chop those up, that adds to the dish as well. So that's another option for you. And I'll make sure I put that in the recipe. So now I can hit it with this last bit of green, some more pasta on top, the cheese on top. And doesn't that look good? And that's it. Piece of bread, a roll, toasty roll, side salad, 30 minutes or less on your table. Thanks. See you in the next video.